That seems to be working.
Yay.
I am listening and I can turn my video on at any time, but I'm working on a little project while I'm listening. So I'm going to turn my video off.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm streaming live unlisted, and I will send the link around to the whole group afterwards so that anybody who misses today can find it.
I saw a couple of people said they wouldn't make it, so I guess we'll see how many people show up.
So my good news is that our solar filter paper just appeared online today.
Excellent.
I just sent a link in the chat.
Hello, y'all.
Hey, Alex. I'm trying to find the agenda.
What I was just trying to do.
Failing. You know, the email that was the second or third one in my inbox is now like the 22nd or 23rd one. So it's here.
And there's weirdness in how searches work. So, you know.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Andy. Yeah, I don't know what time it is.
It's 2 o'clock here, so it must be 3 o'clock there.
Thank you.
Which means it must be about noon where Andy is.
Right.
And Angela, your background is incredibly dramatic.
Do you like it? Have you not
Yeah.
seen this? It's really cool. Hang on, let me see if I can get out of the way. So I first saw this in the American Indian Museum on the mall.
Huh.
And it was an Incas exhibit. So it was one of their short-term exhibits that was on Incan stuff. But, you know, all the Southern Hemisphere groups, whether it's South American, Australasian, African, tend to focus on the dark lanes in the Milky Way. So this is the Incan constellations or Incan image ideas of what those dust lanes are in the Milky Way.
Ah.
There was a nice article in, I think it's the October issue of Sky and Tell, might have been September. I'm not even sure which issue's out yet, but it was one of the most recent issues that had a nice article about the dark constellations of the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Not
I first
focused.
learned about them from someone who was a student at Missouri and then went to Macquarie and is now at Monash, I think. Anyway, he's ended up doing lots of stuff in archaeoastronomy, mostly South Pacific and Aboriginal. But, you know, that got me all interested in it. And then I learned about the Incans ones and I'm like, oh, so it seems like it's really common in the Southern Hemisphere. I just don't understand why it would be common across the Southern Hemisphere and not across the Northern Hemisphere. I mean, doesn't quite make sense to me.
Well, the Southern Hemisphere, the center of the Milky Way is so much more obvious at night, and it rises so much higher that those dark constellations are just
So much
impossible
more.
to miss.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, if you've been to Chile or Australia or South Africa and you've seen them, it's just like, oh, well, yeah, of course, the emu. What else could it be? What
it's
else
a
could it be?
llama. Look,
Yeah.
it's a llama.
I gotta say, while those stars around it on your background look really bright, there are not a
I
ton of
know.
constellations that I recognize in the Southern Hemisphere. And I
Yeah.
spent some time working on it.
You see, I remember the thing that struck me the most for the first time I went to the Southern Hemisphere was Orion, because it's almost symmetric. And so upside down, it just looks weird. It's like there's something wrong, but I can't quite figure out what it is. It's like, looking at your own face backwards. It's like, there's something wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Some of us have that looking forwards too.
I'm getting a couple messages, Kate and Tyler, who are saying that the Zoom link's taking them to the wrong place, but I'm just checking here. It's the same ND.
Okay,
Oh,
so-
no, it isn't. It looks like it might have changed. That's weird. Yeah, let me try this.
I think since Tyler's been gone for a while, he didn't maybe get the transition to the new monthly link. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know. I went into my calendar and found it. So
Yeah, me too. It's just in my Outlook count. Maybe
This
we're
is-
all in the wrong one.
Yeah, I think there are multiple ones. I'm gonna let me see if I can figure out. Well, this is what yeah, let me see.
So the one I've got the agenda open that's got your
And now Jay's got the same problem.
Yeah.
Ah,
I think I used.
all right, let's see if they show up. Yeah, I've noticed some weird problems with Zoom. It's like there's so many links kicking around there's the one that you create in Zoom, and then sometimes the one if you create an invitation, sometimes it changes the link, or it seems to. I don't know. That's why I like just emailing invitations, but let's see if these guys show up.
So you're emailing them at the correct address?
I just emailed them what I think is the right address. Now
Okay.
Lori is saying she's got the
Because
same problem.
on email, there are people, yeah, asking what to do.
I'm just going to put it in the chat so that you can see what I think our correct address is.
Okay, tell me what you think our correct address is. All right. NDZ09. Yeah, and that's different than the link that I sent yesterday by email. So I'm going to send this around right now.
Yeah, the one in my
Yes.
calendar was NDZ.
Yeah.
Rick, the link that you just sent out allowed me to come in. I was
Yeah,
sitting
I'm
in
gonna
that. limbo,
resend it.
You know,
Yeah, it's supposed to end with NDZ. Okay, I'm sending it around to the whole group. I don't know how that happened. I guess the calendar invitations ended up with a different link than what I actually have in Zoom. So let's see what happens.
Now
Lori's
Kate is
trying to join
asking for
Trey.
a password.
No, she shouldn't have had to do that.
Shouldn't need a password. That should be included in that link.
Yeah, that's included in the link.
The joys of technology. So I'm guessing I'm the only one currently on here who actually has a semester starting shortly, right? You're not teaching now, right, Andy?
I'm teaching in 2 university programs for retired people, but it doesn't start.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
September.
Is that the OSHA?
OSHA
Yeah,
Lifelong Learning and
I've done those.
something
They're
called the
great.
Fromm Institute.
Excellent. Mizzou had an OSHA program through Extension. So
Okay.
I've worked with them quite a bit. It's fun doing those.
Yeah.
Old people with too much time on their hands. They have lots of questions. It's great.
And you don't have to give grades. One of the delights of my retirement, not to have to give grades.
If that was the only thing I was worried about right now, that would be fantastic.
Okay, Mario just took over as having the best background.
I took this
thought
picture
Angela
last
did
week.
it. Wow.
Nice.
Wow, that's great.
Very little imaging this year. Had nothing but clouds, rain, or smoke and haze from the west.
I know that's that syndrome. I've had it too. Of course, you and I aren't too far apart, so naturally we had the same weather. All right. Well, looks like almost everybody's made it in. Still waiting on Kate
And Jay?
Yeah,
and
Jay,
Jay, right? Yeah. Yeah, I just sent the new link around to the whole group. Interesting.
Trey Winter was also trying to get in.
So for those of you who joined a little bit late, either because I sent you the wrong link or just because our clocks aren't synchronized, I just sent a link to the AJ paper that just came out today from Ralph Chu and me and Stephen Dane in Australia on updating the solar filter standard. Also, just to let everybody know, I'm streaming this to YouTube, but it's private. It's actually unlisted. And at the end of the meeting, I'll send the link around so that anybody who needs a refresher or wasn't able to get on today can watch the recording.
Awesome.
Well, let me, let's see, Kate, just heard from Kate again. What did she say? I don't know why she's being asked for a password. Very strange. None of you were asked for a password, right? Password's
Nope.
embedded in the link.
Yes. I wonder whether it's something to do with her client. Sometimes there's weirdness.
But I have a password, so let me send it to her.
Eventually, we will all be able to get access to this without
Right.
drama.
Yeah, one of these days, right after the eclipse. Okay, show meeting invitation. And here's the passcode. Okay. Let me send that to Kate. It's supposed to be embedded in the link, but if it's asking her for a passcode, maybe she needs to manually enter it. All right. Anyway, what I wanted to do first was welcome a couple of new people to the group. Bob Bayer has joined us from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, SIUC, where we had a workshop a few years back. Welcome, Bob. Bob is has formally been appointed by the AAS Board of Trustees at my request, and Bob is going to co-chair the local planning working group with Lori. So we're really glad to have you here, Bob. And let's see, Anna Hurst from the ASP, Astronomical Society of the Pacific, asked if she could bow out, at least for the time being, because she's got apparently the equivalent of like 3 full-time jobs and can't, didn't want to try to keep not being able to show up for these meetings. So we have named, or I should say, we've had a volunteer step in her place, and that's Greg Schultz, who I think most of you will know from the ASP. He's senior scientist and educator for them. And Greg is joining us today. He hasn't been formally approved, but I don't doubt that he will be at the next time that the board gets together. And we got Kate. Kate, you got in. I'm so glad.
Yeah, sorry about all the hassles.
That's all right.
I'm
I don't
here.
know. Yeah, I don't have any idea why the link I sent wasn't the right link. I thought I pulled it from the same place where I start all the meetings, but I may have pulled it from a calendar invite, and it may have been an old calendar invite. So I apologize. We'll try. I think Claire's on vacation. She set up the calendar invites. I'll try to sort it out with her when she gets back. Make sure that the same link is for everybody. Anyway, I was just welcoming Greg Schultz from the ASP in place of Anna Hurst as one of our liaisons to the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, and Bob Bayer from SIU Carbondale, who hosted an Eclipse workshop a few years back, and who will lead the local planning working group with Lori. So here we all are for the first time in about a month. Now let me see if I can find the email where I had the agenda posted.
I have it open so I can
Okay.
post the things into the chat, and that way everybody can see it.
Okay.
And you've already addressed one of them.
I'm having a really terrible time finding it now. Ah, here we go. Okay. All right. So that was the workshop, the membership changes. So the next thing up is workshop proposals. So originally we thought we were going to need to draft everybody to help evaluate the workshop proposals, but we originally got 4 workshop proposals, not counting 2 copies of a proposal from Thailand, which was clearly just somebody unclear on the concept. Claire and Angela and I took a quick look at them and realized that they were all solid. They were from people we know and love. And so, we didn't have any real need to invite everybody else to get involved in it. We then, after those first 4 came in, none of which conflicted with each other, we then got 4 more from 4 different places in Arkansas who were definitely unclear on the concept, because I was communicating with all of them about collaborating and putting in one joint proposal, and instead they put in 4 separate proposals at 4 different venues, 4 different times, with capacities ranging from less than 50 to more than 1,000. So we ended up just rejecting those and said, you guys didn't deliver what we were expecting. So we now have a new workshop schedule, and the workshop schedule is posted on the workshops page on the Eclipse website, although it may not actually be, because I'm not sure if I published it yet. I think I did. Sorry, there's just so many. Oh yeah, it's published. So here's the schedule. Our next workshop will be in probably April 8th of 2022 will be the start date. Spring of 2022 in San Antonio, Texas, hosted by Angela and a cast of thousands from UT San Antonio, the Scobie Education Center, and the Alamo STEM ecosystem. So, and Angela recused herself from selecting that proposal, but Claire and I insisted that we accept it anyway. The next one after that will be in the fall of 2022. Don't have a specific date yet. That'll be in Rochester, New York, hosted by the Rochester Museum and Science Center. Several reps from there attended our 2019 workshop in St. Louis, and they hosted a reception, and they were really gung-ho about 2024, and they submitted a proposal, so they're in. The next one after that, spring of 2023, will be in Cleveland, Ohio, hosted by the Great Lakes Science Center in partnership with the NASA Glenn Research Center. And then the final, well, it's not final actually, well, let's say the final remotely hosted workshop is scheduled for the fall of 2023 in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, hosted by the Appalachian Mountain Club, the New Hampshire Solar Eclipse Task Force, and the Mountains of Stars Astronomy Outreach Program, which is run at the Appalachian Mountain Club huts up there. And then we will presumably have a workshop, final workshop before the April 2024 eclipse in conjunction with the January AAS meeting in New Orleans. That'll be hosted by the AAS. That one's tentative, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do it. So that's the schedule and the good news. And I think we had talked some in previous meetings about potentially having some additional smaller topically focused workshops, maybe a workshop just on education and outreach, or a workshop just on some other topic. We'll think about that as we get going and, decide if that's what we want. And if so, we can put out a call for proposals for those, or maybe just organize them right here within the task force. Any questions or comments? I don't think there was anything too terribly surprising about that list.
Rick, where is that posted on the website?
If you go to the eclipse.aas.org and you click on planning workshops on the main menu, it should pull up the page that lists those.
I got it. Thanks.
It has links to the old workshops and schedule of the new ones. All right, and I've taken down the call for proposals and the proposal form, and I don't think there are any links to those anymore anyway. All right, so that looks good. I mean, we're going to have 2 a year for the next 2 years, and then a final one right before the April 2024 eclipse. So I think we'll get a lot of people involved from all along the paths. We didn't get any other than Texas that were only on the path of the annular, but that's not too terribly surprising. I don't think people quite realize yet what the annular is about and that they really should get ready for it. But we'll do our best to make that, to fix that problem over the next 6 months or so. All right. The next thing on the agenda, unless anybody has anything further about the workshops, is reports from any working groups who have met since our last meeting as a group. Have any working groups met since our last meeting as a group? I know that the local planning has a meeting scheduled for, I believe, next week. So I'd understand that they don't have anything to report at this meeting. Has anybody else been able to have a meeting?
I can't remember if when the last time we met was compared to when we had our first national planning meeting. So I don't remember if I reported out last time or not.
I seem to recall that you did. We last met
That's
as
what
a
I
group
thought.
5 weeks ago.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. So then I don't have anything more to report.
Right. Okay. My working group hasn't met. Ralph Chu and I had just been going through multiple iterations of corrections and everything for our paper, but the paper's out now, so we'll move on to the next thing, which is getting our working group on safety together. Mario, I'll be in touch to schedule something, and we'll map out our strategy for solar filter safety in the coming years. I know that I've been contacted by a few people who signed up for the media working group, media outreach, asking, when are we going to meet? We agreed that there's no urgency in trying to inform the media about these eclipses just yet, but we do need to get the working group together. I don't see Pamela on board here, so I will get in touch with her and ask her if she's if this Friday schedule is not working for her anymore, or if we can get her at least to schedule a meeting of the media working group. I know Michael Zeiler had at least one meeting of the web and social media group. Have you been working toward getting another meeting together, Michael? You're muted. Sorry, Michael, you're still muted. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm overdue for a meeting, and I'll send out schedule requests pretty soon for our second meeting. We did leave some detailed notes from our first meeting in early June on the Slack, so people who have access to that Slack channel can read the notes. I don't think I need to repeat what's on there.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention, by the way, that a handful of additional working group applications have come in. I didn't get a chance to download them yet because I was doing emails out to the workshop proposers, but I will download those and let the chairs of the relevant working groups know that they should go in there and approve those people and invite them to their respective Slack channels. Andy.
Oh, I'm not the chair of any group, but Dennis Schatz and I are part of both the formal and informal education one. And I guess there's a couple of things we could report. The really good news is that the foundation that funded the library, millions of glasses being distributed by library proposal, we had a snag where the overhead rates that they offer with their grants did not fit with the institution that was going to manage the project. And I'm happy to report that they are so enthusiastic about doing a bigger Eclipse classes and information distribution through libraries this time that they were willing to waive their worries about overhead and give the larger overhead just to get the project going. So that was a piece of diplomacy that worked. And so we're
Fantastic.
moving ahead with specifying that.
Is that going to be pretty much the same group that did it last time?
Yeah.
As I
Yeah.
recall, there was funding from Moore, and you had the Space Science Institute involved and so on.
Right. And
Yep.
and Alex and I have agreed that once we understand more what these groups want, then we'll talk about NASA's role and
Excellent.
exactly how we can coordinate it. We'd love to coordinate with everybody else. I know Vivian has a proposal in that also involves libraries. So anybody that wants to work as part of this, we're still at the very beginning of defining just what's what. But that was a big bureaucratic snag that we got over. So that was good. And many of you know that Dennis Schatz just recently retired as the president of the National Science Teaching Association, as it's now called, the first astronomer ever to be president of that. And so he has lots of fingers in all their pies, and he's already begun to discuss with their journal editors when will be the appropriate time to submit articles for the many journals of the National Science Teaching Association, when they want to start having training workshops, things like that. So we're looking into that, and we'll report back on that to the appropriate working groups. And then I've been pursuing the Boy Scouts, who, if you read the papers, have been having troubles of their own recently. But we've now identified an astronomer engineer who was very involved in defining the merit badge in astronomy for the Boy Scouts. And I've got feelers out to him to introduce me to the right people at the Boy Scouts for the informal group. So if we get any response from that, I'll report again to the appropriate subgroup. So that's a couple of things that we've been doing.
That's great, Andy. That's really terrific news that that's going to go forward. I've become even more appreciative of the role of libraries more recently since I moved to New Hampshire, because we have a town library, and my oldest son, who's a librarian, is just starting a new job next week at a town library up in Maine, and I'm much more cognizant of how vitally important the libraries can be in communities, especially outside of bigger cities.
So I had a question for Andy. You pursuing Boy Scouts, is anyone pursuing Girl Scouts?
Oh yeah, the SETI Institute and ASP have
They
a
already do
big
that.
project with the Girl Scouts, so they really know that world, and they have, right? Vivian, I should let you talk.
Yeah, we've mentioned it to the Girl Scouts USA, and they're on board.
Excellent.
Closer to the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know last time they had a whole competition, and they had because one of the camps was in Missouri. I provided them with some personnel. So I just want to make sure we're doing that. I will save my rant about the Boy Scouts until another time.
Any other working groups have anything to report? All righty then.
I guess I have one thing to report. So I think Lori first put this on Slack with through Claire, trying to better coordinate between the local planning and the national planning. And even though we call it national planning, our group has talked a lot about state too. So we're trying to connect to the state organizations. But basically we're going to be coordinating more. So I think Bob he's on the local planning, and obviously he's the co-chair, and he's going to be kind of our liaison. She originally wanted somebody from NASA to be on there, but I just don't have the bandwidth. Most of us just don't have the bandwidth for it. So, but I think that'll be fine.
Yeah,
And I'd like to join as well, because I spent a lot of time in federal government working with state and local government, state and local agencies. So I know the list well. I know all the public interest groups. So I'm happy to offer that.
That would be fantastic. I mean, I think you and I should tag up offline, and then we can both have discussions with each other's groups. That's definitely would be valuable.
Happy to do it. Yeah.
Aida, I wonder if you would be willing to just say a few words about what activities are going on in Mexico. I know you sent me an email indicating that things are moving along pretty well within Mexico, and it'd be great to hear from you. Just what kind of progress you're making and how we can better coordinate among our group and your group in Mexico.
Okay, yeah. So as I described in the email, we meet on a monthly basis. We have started the committee in winter. That was in January, I think, our first meeting. So we'll have our next meeting in a few days. So it's 8 meetings in total so far. We have about 15 participants, and they are representing different states. In Mexico, most of them in the path of totality. And also we have many representatives from UNAM and other research institutions. So basically, almost every participant from every Mexican state is developing their working groups inside their states, and they are not forming part of the committee. They're just, they meet separately, and then they decide what to do in every single state. Okay. So for now, we are working on social media. We're working on having a web page, having a logo, and these we plan to have by the end of this year. So basically, every person in the committee has homework to do related to logo, web page, or social media. We are also working on some outreach events. For instance, in July, we had a series of talks devoted to the 1991 solar eclipse anniversary. And those were given online, obviously, due to the conditions. Yeah, and we are discussing plans on how to get funds from big companies, from big Mexican companies. So we would hopefully we'll get the money to have some outreach material for the eclipse. And I think so far that's it.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I was really encouraged when you sent me that email that things are really coming together well in Mexico. I don't see Randy Atwood on today, so I don't think we can get a comparable report from Canada. But we'll check in with him next time and see what's going on up there. I know the RASC chapters are sort of the principal movers and shakers for eclipse planning up in Canada. And Randy, of course, is one of the principals in the RASC, Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. All right. What would you like to do next, Angela?
Okay, so I think that the one thing that I think people would like to, one thing that I think we need to do, and I'm not sure which working group it goes to, is we talked about having, slide decks and, consistent, like PowerPoint styles, all of that sort of thing. And I'm starting to get people saying, hey, how can, can you, are you going to have that stuff soon? Or, I'd love to start doing talks, but I don't have time to put stuff together. I'm perfectly happy to share my stuff. I mean, I always have been, but I feel like this is one of those things that we haven't really talked about what we're going to do with it. So I think that might want to be a priority. And I see Alex has got his hand up.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit to that, as well as some other things I did want to bring up from NASA. So we had something similar. We put together a whole set of slides that we provided to subject matter experts. So we could do something like that where we could coordinate together and put together a couple of different slide decks. I mean, actually, Angela, I know I've used your slide decks in some of my slide decks, and I'm sure there's a lot of crossover information.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of related to that is I do have a list of some of the products that we want to do, that we want to co-brand. Because now one of the things we've been working on is a relationship with AAS, NASA, NSF, and maybe NOAA if we want, and that's easy enough to add them, so that we produce some of our products as a team and have them co-branded so that we don't have to duplicate effort. And that could also go to a slide deck. It doesn't have to, but that's a possibility. So Shannon, do you want to pull up do you have the list of the particular things that we wanted to bring up to the task force for items that we might want to co-brand? I think
I kind of
let's see,
like
I
the
think I can-
idea of having some sort of co-branding on the slide deck, in the sense that, you know, it lends a certain authority, and depending on the audience, you know, different logos and things are going to have different resonances. But having something that we can just move around and say, you know, and people see it, and, you know, for the general public, it's mostly going to be the NASA meatball, right? but also seeing things like NOAA for weather-related stuff. The fact that, you know, we are perfectly competent to talk about it is irrelevant. If they see that, it will help.
I think, and I see your hand, Lori. What I think makes a lot of sense is, you know, there's many different topics that can be covered in a presentation on these two eclipses. And depending on the context and the audience, you know, you may want to focus on some parts and not others. I think what would be really great would be, because, you know, I'm looking at this group of people and I'm looking, you know, at Michael Zeiler with all of his maps, and Michael having written a book, several books, and Jay with his, you know, vast resources. There's a lot of us who've given talks over the years, and we have a lot of slides. And I think what would be really helpful would be to compile basically a master slide deck that is broken up by topic. You know, you want to talk about the effects, other effects that happen during eclipses other than just seeing the corona. Here's that section. You know, who's got the best shadow band images or the best descriptions of these kind of things. And then anybody can put a presentation together using the materials in that master slide deck, which we can make sure we have permission for everything. And we have, you know, rules about which logos should be used and that kind of stuff. So I think it should be a collaborative effort. I'm on the verge of being able to volunteer to do all kinds of extra things because I'm only 19 days away from my official retirement date. And then I'm not going to have, I know I'm not going to have as many things to do all the time. And I'm interested in this particular project in any case. I've done this kind of thing before, for example, for Sky and Telescopes tours and for Travel Quest tours in recent years. I've put together a master deck for all of the tour leaders, and then they've taken the pieces that work best for them, given where they were located and so on. Mario?
Rick, I got 4 months and 2 weeks before I retire, so you're ahead of me. But how many retirements do you get to have in your life?
Well, this will be my first. I didn't retire from Sky and Telescope. I left and started a new job right away. So that's different. This time I'm not starting a new job. No more new jobs for me.
As a
Lori?
retiree, I would not fill up all of your time.
No.
But
the Eclipse
is enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
So I used to be, when I worked, I used to get up at 6 in the morning and swim. I have not seen the sunrise since, but I still swim. So I would say, don't fill up your entire calendar.
No, I won't. But the Eclipse is my primary astronomical focus for the next few years. So for that,
that's what I said, and they kept, and the transportation world kept finding things for me to do. So on to less important things. You're not just, so if you're going to develop something, and actually I was talking to a buddy of mine in the transportation world of how to get federal highway involved. I would encourage a couple of generic slides that can be handed to most of the federal departments and agencies, because over the course of the next 2 years, or whatever, these people go out and speak on a whole bunch of things. It doesn't have to be even related to the eclipse, and that you then have it say, and by the way, this is coming. And whether it's agriculture and the public forests, or it's interior and the national parks, they all have audiences that won't be reached through NOAA or NASA or NSF.
Yeah.
So, and
That- so
yes, I'm sorry, what?
well, I was just going to say that's actually something we were talking about and planning in our in the national group.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
that's
'Cause you-
definitely in line with what we want to do.
Yeah, because they don't have a clue and they need to be encouraged. Would that be the right word? Poke a pin in them. They will say it's years away. And they all have lots of capabilities within their departments that they can make use of. I don't know if this is a good time to note New Hampshire's great news from yesterday, that their governor has made a proclamation. And with the governor signing off on that proclamation, it gives the state agencies the signal, start getting ready. So that's a perfect example that should be folded into whatever AAS and certainly what NASA does to say, look what New Hampshire did. And it's a real good way to get other states and other agencies involved.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed that I didn't bring that up. I had only just gotten back from vacation, and so I wasn't able to get up early and go to the signing. But yeah, the New Hampshire Solar Eclipse Task Force organized this. They put forward a bill, proposed a bill declaring April 8th Solar Eclipse Day in New Hampshire, and it took them several legislative cycles, but being patient, they managed to get it passed, and the governor signed it at a little ceremony in northern New Hampshire just this past week. In fact, just Wednesday.
I'm not even going to start trying to do things with our governor. Thank you very much.
Well, he operates on a different reality plane. So yeah, exactly.
Actually, the border states would be great to work with Mexico and Canada to make a joint Canadian, US, Mexican proclamation. I mean, or work it through the State Department, but there are lots of ways. I mean, this is only a win-win. There is no downside to it. And in many ways, it makes the states look good in ways that they haven't looked good otherwise.
Okay, well, I think, it's been a little bit tough the last month or two because it's been vacation season. People are in and out. I think that as the weather cools a little and we all start getting back into our fall routine, we'll meet more regularly and get more done. At least that's my hope, and I think that's what the case will be with me. I know Angela needs to leave in a few minutes. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up today?
So I actually did want to bring up one other thing, and it's more a matter of process than anything else. And I'm sure that I won't be the only person fielding this sort of inquiry. So someone who's actually an astronomer, some of you may know him, Alex Rudolph. Long story, he has connections to the Ohio National Park that I can't pronounce, Cuyahoga, and is interested in facilitating. And so what I don't have, he doesn't really want to be on a specific working group, because I think that he actually needs to interface with more than one working group, but I don't think it's appropriate to bring him into the task force either. And so where do we put people like this that are in this position where, this would be a mixture of educational, both formal and informal, and the national and local planning. And so I'm just not quite sure where it fits.
Well, I mean, several people are on multiple working groups. I don't think that's a killer. You may not want to be dealing with a lot of Slack traffic on 3 different channels and everything. But if the idea is to be plugged in and to know who else is working on the similar issues, I see no reason not to encourage him to sign up for 3 working groups.
Okay.
And then we'll have him. He'll be part of it. He'll be in the conversation. and he'll know who else is in the conversation.
Perfect. Laurie raised her hand.
Laura, you're muted.
I'm very slow.
Oops, you muted again. You must have touched the button twice.
That's third time's the charm.
Yep.
Not all the working groups meet at the same time. Some will meet later on. So let him know. I mean, you know, and I think we're going to try and post the material anyway. So it's not a big secret.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's it from me.
There's a question in the chat from Michael Bakich saying, where in San Antonio is totality going to be 4 minutes, 24 seconds long? That's probably a media misunderstanding of something, right?
Yes, it is. It's not. So yes. So depending on how you count San Antonio, at my house, it's 2 minutes something. It's more, it's over 2.5 minutes. At UTSA, it's 2.5 minutes. It's 2 minutes 24 at Fredericksburg and Kerrville, which are up in the hill country, but that's not a very long drive because there's an interstate. So, you know, it's within the greater San Antonio area. Let's put it that way. But yes.
That aside, it was a very nice article.
Thank you.
It was very thorough. And I have to say, so many years out, well done.
They approached us and it actually came from astrologers.
It was very nice.
Astrologers are apparently panicking about the fact that we are at the crossroads of the annular and total eclipses.
Oh God, it never occurred to me. Yeah, that could open a rift in the space-time continuum. Why didn't I think of that before?
But you know, that was a great excuse to talk to a journalist about it. So
yeah.
It worked.
When I was at Sky and Telescope, I always used to tell people, look, I'm happy that astrologers read Sky and Telescope. They don't read the science articles, but you know, they like it for the predictions of where the planets will be, and their money's as good as anybody else's. So, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I have to run away.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything urgent? If not, we can quit early and try to get on with our August.
So are we going to, what now, every 3 weeks? What's the plan for the next few months on meetings? Because I know.
Well, we had switched to what we had hoped would be every 4 weeks.
Okay.
But we got off by a week. I think Claire's on vacation this week and next, so I need to wait until she gets back, and then Angela and I will confer as to when we should start up the every 4 week schedule again, whether it should be in 3 weeks or 4 weeks from now. All right. And I know there's always going to be problems with being able to get everybody because everybody's so busy. But if we can get most people most of the time and some people at least some of the time, we should be okay. We also can try to be a little bit more aggressive about using Slack to stay in touch between meetings. We all need to get into the groove, I know. All right.
Okay.
All right. I'll follow up with a link to the recording and a reminder to all the working groups, including Pamela's, to try to get together within the next few weeks. All right. Look forward to talking with you all again. Thanks very much for coming today.
Take care. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.